Mysael and his friends wanted to kick me out of my own villa. I still get angry just saying the words out loud. Imagine standing in the home you built brick by brick, the place you poured your entire life savings into, only to have a group of grown men, men younger than you, men you helped, men you fed, look you dead in the eyes and tell you that you don't belong here anymore. Tell me, honestly, what would you have done in that moment? Because the way they spoke to me, the way they treated me, it pushed me to a point I never thought I'd reach. And after what I did, I still wonder if you'll say I was right or if I went too far. But before you decide, let me tell you everything exactly how this madness started and what drove me to finally snap. So, here's how a simple act of kindness turned into a full-blown war inside my own villa. I never imagined I would be sharing a story like this. My villa wasn't just a house. It was my pride, my escape, my dream. Come, true after decades of working like a machine. While other people my age traveled or splurged on things, I spent my money on a piece of land at the edge of a quiet coastal neighborhood. I designed the entire place myself, the open terrace with a view of the sea, the guest rooms big enough for family to visit, the garden where I planted lemon trees, the kitchen I remodeled twice because I love cooking. It was the one place in the world where I felt completely at peace. So when my wife's younger brother, my brother-in-law, let's just call him Sam, asked if he could stay for a few weeks while he figured out his life, I didn't think twice. He was family, and I've always believed that family helps family. If only I knew what that one decision would bring into my life. Sam was in his late 20s, jobless, bouncing between random business ideas, and constantly surrounded by friends who lived like every day was a weekend. I didn't judge him for that. My wife always told me he just needed time to grow up, and honestly, I hoped she was right. When he moved in, we gave him one of the guest rooms, told him he was free to stay as long as he needed, and didn't place any restrictions on him. He thanked me so sincerely that first night that I actually felt proud of myself for doing something good. But that was the last peaceful moment for a long time. Within a week, Sam brought over 2 of his friends to hang out. I didn't mind at first. They seemed harmless enough, loud but polite. But then they came again the next day, and the next, and the next. Suddenly, my peaceful villa became a bachelor pad. Music blasted at night. Empty soda cans appeared on tables I had just cleaned, and I kept finding the terrace lights left on at 3 a.m. I let it slide. I told myself it was temporary. I didn't want to be the old, grumpy guy complaining about noise. But the atmosphere shifted when Sam's 4th friend Lucas started dropping by. He wasn't like the others. He had this arrogant smirk that made my skin crawl, the type of guy who looked at everything like it belonged to him. The first time he visited, he walked around the villa like he was inspecting it, not admiring, inspecting, running his hand along the walls, opening doors without asking, making comments like, "Damn, this place is huge." And bro, imagine the parties you could have here. I brushed it off, but something in my gut felt wrong, and I should have listened to that feeling. One afternoon, about 2 weeks later, I walked into my kitchen and found all 4 of them sitting around the island, eating food I had prepared earlier for myself. I stood there, watching them devour my dinner like it was some buffet, and Sam casually said, "Oh hey, we thought you wouldn't mind." No apology, no embarrassment. Just entitlement. I smiled tightly. I didn't want to cause drama in front of his friends, but I told him later that he needed to set some boundaries. He nodded, said yeah, I got it. But nothing changed. In fact, it got worse. Suddenly, they were treating my villa like a hotel. Towels left on the floor, dishes piled up in the sink, lights left on all night. One morning I found cigarette butts on the terrace, even though I told them no smoking inside the property. I was furious, but Sam always had some excuse ready. It wasn't me. It must have been Lucas. We'll clean it later. Of course, they never did. The breaking point came one Saturday afternoon. I came home earlier than usual from running errands, and as I walked through the door, I heard loud laughter coming from living room. When I stepped inside, my jaw literally dropped. They were sitting on my couch, my expensive leather couch, wearing muddy shoes, eating greasy fast food, with a full-on football match playing on my TV at maximum volume. But the worst part, they had rearranged my furniture. They pushed the coffee table aside, moved two chairs, and even shifted the rug to create more space for themselves. Before I could even process the audacity, Lucas looked at me and said, "Oh hey, didn't know you'd be back this early." Back to what? My own house. I told them this wasn't okay, that they needed to respect the space, that I had been patient enough. I wasn't yelling. I was honestly being much calmer than most people would have been. But Sam rolled his eyes like I was some annoying landlord. He didn't even acknowledge that it was his responsibility to keep things under control. Instead, he muttered, "Relax, man. It's not that deep. Not that deep." They had turned my villa into a frat house. Later that night, I confronted Sam again when the others left. I told him we needed to set rules. I said that his friends couldn't just come and go as they pleased, that he needed to clean up, that he needed to respect the place. He listened silently, arms crossed, anger obvious on his face, and after I finished, he simply said, "You're overreacting." That was the first time I truly felt disrespected in my own home. But what happened next, that was the moment everything changed. 5 days later, I walked into the villa around noon, something I rarely did because I usually stayed out most of the day. And I heard voices coming from the living room. When I walked in, I saw them again, all four of them, but this time they were discussing something that made my blood run cold. Lucas was saying, "Bro, if he's barely here, why doesn't he take one of the guest rooms? This entire big room could easily be ours. We could set up the gaming stuff here, move the couch, maybe even put a mini fridge." Sam laughed and said, "Yeah, honestly, I don't know why he needs the master room. He's like never even home." Then the other one, Mark, said, "Bro, just tell him to take the upstairs room or something. He's old, he should be resting anyway." And then another guy added, "Yeah, it's weird that he takes the master when there's four of us chilling here most of the time. This place feels more like our pad now. Our pad." I felt something inside me snap, not anger, not shock, something colder, something razor sharp. I stepped forward and the entire room froze. Sam stuttered, trying to explain, but I held up my hand. I didn't yell. I didn't even raise my voice. I just said, "Get out, all of you." Sam tried to protest, but I repeated myself with a level of calmness that scared even me. "Out. Every one of you, now." Lucas smirked like he thought I was bluffing. He leaned back and said, "You can't just kick us out, man. We live here too." I stared at him and said, "No, you don't live here." "He does," pointing at Sam, "and even that ends today." They hesitated, but something in my expression must have told them I wasn't playing. Within 10 minutes they all left, except Sam, who stayed behind, trembling with anger. He accused me of humiliating him, of embarrassing him in front of his friends. He said I was acting like a tyrant in my own villa, and when I told him he had 1 week to move out, he lost it. He said he wasn't going anywhere. He said my wife would take his side. He said I was being dramatic. He said I should adjust. But what he didn't know was that while he was running his mouth, I was already planning what would come next. And this is the point where I want you to pause and really think. So that's where I was disrespected, cornered, pushed out of my own space, treated like a guest in the house I built. Before I tell you what I did next, I want you to tell me what you would have done. Would you have kicked him out? Would you have given him another chance? Would you have let those guys treat your home like a playground? Comment below what you would have done in my shoes, because trust me, the next part is where things truly explode. So, here's what happened. After that confrontation, Sam texted my wife his sister and twisted the whole story. He claimed I attacked his friends, that I was kicking him out for no reason, that I hated him, and that I was being controlling and hungry. He made himself sound like the victim. My wife called me, confused and upset, asking why I had snapped. I calmly explained everything, every detail from the messes to the cigarettes to the conversation about kicking me out of my own master bedroom. At first, she didn't believe they would say something like that, but I told her she could check the camera recordings if she wanted. Yes, I had cameras not hidden, fully visible ones for security. She watched the footage, and her entire tone changed, but instead of calling Sam to confront him, she said, "Don't do anything yet. I'll come tomorrow." That's when I realized something important. If I let her handle it, she would try to mediate, to fix it for the family, which meant nothing would change, so I made a decision. Maybe it was petty, maybe it was harsh, but after everything they had done, I didn't feel guilty even for a second. The next morning, I hired a cleaning crew, not a normal cleaning crew, a deep cleaning professional team. I had them come at 7 a.m. sharp. They arrived with industrial vacuums, steam cleaners, chemical disinfectants, the whole arsenal, and they cleaned the villa from top to bottom. They scrubbed the floors, disinfected the couches, cleaned out the kitchen, threw away all the trash, even washed the curtains. They worked for 5 hours straight. Why? Because they had to work in the same rooms where Sam was still sleeping. At 7:10 a.m., the noise woke him up. He came out of his room wearing a t-shirt and boxers, hair messy, eyes half open, yelling, "What the hell is going on?" The cleaners ignored him. They were paid professionals and knew not to get into family drama. I walked up to him and handed him a large black trash bag, not luggage, not a suitcase, a trash bag. I said, "Pack your things. You're leaving today." He stared at the bag like I had just insulted his ancestors. He said I couldn't force him. He said he needed time. He said I was being insane. But before he could continue, the doorbell rang. It was my wife. I let her in, and without a word, she smelled the cleaning chemicals, looked around at the chaos, and then looked at Sam holding the trash bag. She asked him plainly, "Did you really tell your friends this villa belongs to you guys now?" Sam froze. She repeated the question. He didn't answer. That was all she needed. She told him to leave immediately. She said she was ashamed of him, said he had taken advantage of us for too long, said he had embarrassed her and disrespected me. Her voice didn't even shake. He packed slowly, dramatically, sniffling like a child. Then he left, but the story doesn't end there. 3 hours later, I got a text from an unknown number. It was Lucas. He sent a message saying, "You'll regret this, old man. We were planning something good for that villa. You ruined it. Planning something good. What? A gaming lounge, a party house, a money-making scheme. To this day, I don't know. But I do know this. After talking to a mutual acquaintance, I found out that they had been discussing the idea of renting out rooms in the villa to their friends to make passive income. Passive income from my house. They had literally started making plans for how they would use my property to make money. When I heard that, any leftover guilt evaporated into thin air. Now, months later, the villa is peaceful again. I can hear the ocean waves from the terrace. I can cook in my kitchen without finding strangers' fingerprints on my fridge. I can walk barefoot in the living room without stepping on a gaming controller. My lemon trees are growing. Again, my wife apologized 100 times for not seeing through her brother sooner. She even said, "You should have kicked him out the first week." And as for Sam, he's staying with another friend, now apparently still complaining that I overreacted. But you know what? I don't care. For the first time in months, I feel like myself again. I feel like the owner of my own home. I feel free. So, here's the moral of all of this. Never let anyone, family or otherwise, treat your kindness like weakness, and never apologize for protecting your peace. Your home is your sanctuary, not a playground for overgrown children who don't understand the meaning of respect. If you were on my side through this whole mess, make sure to like this video, subscribe for more stories like this, and tell me in the comments what would you have done if a bunch of freeloaders tried to kick you out of your own villa. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you all in the next story.